Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I have a new video for you, doll making video. This one was a commission from the Vancouver Aquarium to use in their educational program. So if you're in Vancouver and you're near the aquarium, definitely go see it when I end up posting it, or when they end up using it. I haven't posted it yet, just waiting to hear back from them to see if they're happy and if they need any adjustments made, and then I'll be posting it. So they requested a Jamaican fruit bat. So it's a little bat. We'll focus on bat. There we go. So head is made from Sculpey and Cosclay. These pieces are Cosclay. Also the feet made from Cosclay, just so they're a little bit more durable. Ball and socket armature in the middle, and wire armature for the wings. Wings are a fabric that I have done a few things to and just highlighted the bone structure. That's the back of it. So it is fully posable, so you can pose it, the wings closed, wings open, all like this. So yeah, that is a little quick look at the Jamaican fruit bat, and if you want to know how I made it, then just keep watching. Okay, so I'm starting off with painting some glass eyes. Now I use some glass cabochons for my doll eyes, and I'm just using some water-based acrylic paint to paint up the pupils and the irises, and these ones are quite dark eyes, so I'm just using some black for the pupils and some brown for the irises, and I'll leave that to dry overnight just to make sure it's nice and dry before I start sculpting anything. Next, I've got an aluminium ball for basically a skull, and it sort of acts as like an armature for the polymer clay to stick to. So I'm using Super Sculpey for this one because I wanted the sort of beigey translucent skin color for this one, and because I'm going to be doing a wash over it to sort of darken it a little bit once it's been baked. So I just basically cover the foil ball with a layer of polymer clay to begin with, and then I can start mapping out all of the detailings that I want to do, and just making sure that the dimensions are correct first before I start doing that, and then roughly sketching in all of the features like the mouth and then the nose area. And I'm starting off with the mouth area for this one. So these bats have a really peculiar mouth. So I sort of went for a mini opened mouth, and they have a little sort of lumpy texture around it. So I added that in once I was happy with the way everything was looking. So I'm adding the top lip as well, and just creating like a little mouth part with my needle tool here, and making sure I'm keeping all the dimensions correct and not like warping anything while I'm adding this polymer clay. This polymer clay is quite a bit harder than the Sculpey original that I use, and I don't really like working with hard clay, so I don't normally work with this one. So for the eyes, I do like a little kind of like an eye socket, I guess, because the back of the cabochons are flat, so I need to give it a little bit more lift so they don't sit too flat on the head, and just making sure that it's all symmetrical and sitting in the right location, and just making sure that the angle is correct on both sides, and then I can start adding the eyelids. So I do the eyelids by just rolling out a small piece of clay into like a worm, and then just adding the eyelids on top and playing around with the angling of that to make sure I get the look that I want. So it can be a little bit of playing around to get the right look, but it's definitely worth spending the time to get the look that you want. Once that's done, I can start adding the detailings under the eye, so all the fatty parts and the eyebrow area, and just adding a little bit more detailing to the eye area just to make it basically look like what it's supposed to be. So I smooth those pieces out with my nail and also the needle tool just to get rid of those lines and add any more detailing that I want around the eye area. Just go in with my needle tool and create those lines. So I'm just mapping out a little bit more, like just adding a little bit more volume to, a little bit more bulk to the head because it was a little bit too thin. So I'm just basically placing a couple of pieces of clay on top of each other and just smoothing it out as I'm happy with the just the bulking out, and then just smoothing it out with my finger once I'm happy with that. And I'm going to start working on the little knobbly bits that are around the mouth of these. So I basically rolled out a whole bunch of little balls that I'm going to start putting on just around the mouth, and the middle bit is sort of has like a little pattern to it. So I'm basically going to start in the middle and then work my way around, just adding these little knobbly balls and kind of blending it in with some of my tools. And I wanted to make sure I got this detail right because I think this is a big part of what the Jamaican fruit bat looks like. So I spent a bit of time just doing these details and making sure, referring back to my reference images and making sure everything looks perfect, I guess. And I find this little loop tool works well for making indentations rather than a needle point, because the needle point tends to dig into the clay while this one tends to sort of dint it. So sometimes this one works better for making little indentations. And same deal for the top lip. Obviously they're not as pronounced as the bottom, so I just did like a little line over the top and just use that same tool to blend it in. And that's pretty much the mouth area done. So now I can move on to all the other features like the nose, which is very interesting in itself. So I'm doing the nose area out of cloth clay, and I mixed it a little bit in with just a small bit of this Sculpey just to sort of match the colour a bit better. And also I'm still using the Kickstarter version, so it's quite crumbly, so I found adding a little bit of Sculpey into it helps make it a bit softer. So I basically put out the first piece onto the nose itself, and then I'm making a flappy bit of the nose. So I'm just sculpting it off the head. It's a little bit easier when you do thin pieces like this just to sculpt it off the head. And I'm just cutting out the section using my scalpel nub. I need to get myself a proper scalpel. And then I can start refining it a bit more and add the little flappy bits on the side. And then I'll attach it to the head once I'm happy. So I'm just using a thinner piece of cos clay just to attach to the back of it, and then I'm going to cut out the shape that I want and just blend it in a bit more. Alright, so here's the piece that I basically attached to it. I'm just blending the two pieces together, just to make sure they're nice and smooth before I put it on. So I go ahead and place it in the middle and just blend it around the sides to attach to the piece, and then I can start adding the nostril details and just bend it into the correct shape, because it needs to have like a little bit of a bend to it. So I'll do that once I've added all the details. And I'm going in with a little ball tool and just pushing the nostril detailings up, so it creates like a little bit of a nostril. So it's a good little handy tip. If you just go from the side and push it in, it'll create a little nostril ridge, and just work it a little bit more by using that end of the ball tool. And then I'm going to blend in the rest of it and make those little flat bits that you can see using this little spoon tool. This one works really well for creating like curved things. You can get this tool in there as opposed to your fingernail. Fingernails will work just fine. I use them all the time, but I think this tool works really well for creating little curved areas like this one. And there's also some knobbly bits that go around the nose area in this one, so I'm basically doing the same routine as the lips and just popping on some of those little sculpey balls around, and I'm going to start blending it in. I'll blend these ones in a little bit more because they're not so pronounced, but this is a good way to start, is to just pop all your pieces on and then start blending away. And again, just going in with that little spoon tool and pushing the clay underneath just so it's not so thick. For the ears, I've basically done 2 ear shapes off the head, and I'm going to be adding the detailings before I put the ears on. So the ears have a pretty pronounced, I guess, markings inside of the ear, so I'm just using my ball tool to create those ears before I put them on, and just placing them in the correct area, making sure I'm looking back at my reference images to make sure that the ears are sitting in the correct spot. I think it's really important to get the ears in the correct spot because it can really make a difference to the way, whether it looks like a dog or a wolf or a fox, even though these are bats, but it's really important to get the ears in the correct shape. So I'm basically just placing it on, making sure it's correct, referencing my images, and then I can start blending the 2 clays together. For the feet, I'm also going to be using Cosclay because they are thinner pieces and I wanted it to be a little bit more durable. So I'm basically cutting out all of the toes and just rolled everything out into a worm, and then just measuring one against the other and cutting them, making sure I'm rolling the snake while I'm cutting, and it creates a nice round cut rather than a flat cut. And once I've got all my pieces together, I can start creating the little nails. So I do this by just pushing a little bit of clay down and basically creates a nail bed. It's super easy to create with this little spoon tool, and it just creates a little nail bed. And then I can start attaching it to the main part of the foot, which is obviously a large piece of clay, and I can just work it in together. So it'll take a little bit of time to work these in together because the fingers are quite thin and they sort of move around a little bit, and you just want to make sure that it doesn't look weird like you've added a piece of clay. So it takes a little bit of time to blend this in correctly. And once I've added all my fingers or toes, I can start adding some detailing like bone structure, and I'll do this by using my loop tools and just scraping a piece of clay out and just blending it again. But I only do this once I'm happy with the way the shape of the foot is, and I don't need to cut it in any way. Then I can start adding all the detailings like this. I also have to add a thumb, so I'm going to do a small thumb piece once I'm happy with the detailing. So I'm just adding a small thumb piece here. It turned out a little bit too long, so I ended up trimming it a little bit once I had finished attaching it. But I'm just making the base a little thicker because it was a bit thin for my liking, so just adding a little bit of clay around it and sort of blending it in. Alright, so that's all the sculpting done, so I'm going to go bake these in the oven, and then I can start working on all the other pieces like the wings. So the wings for this one is a little bit different from the flying fox wings that I have, the pattern for it. So I drew out a quick pattern on some scrap paper, and the good thing is I just sticky tape it together if the piece isn't quite big enough, and then I just cut out the basic pattern of the wings. The wings was a little bit different because the bottom of the wing has to attach past the foot, so it needs to be a little bit longer, and also the shape is a little bit different as well. So once it's done, I create the armature. So this is a combination ball and socket and wire armature. I did the wire armature for the legs because the legs are quite thin, so I opted for a wire armature as well as the wire armature for the wings. I have a wing tutorial in my shop if you want to know how I make these, creaturesandthat.com, but a little snippet of how little steps of how I made the wings for these ones. They work as dragon wings or any sort of wings that require bat-like, dragon-like wings. Works wonders. So I basically finish up my wings, not completely finished because I'm going to be doing a couple more steps and adding a bit more detailing, but I can start working on the body. So basically the body consists of two pieces of faux fur, and then I sew it in between. I sew the wings in between these two pieces of fur, so there's a lot of hand sewing with this one, or any sort of bats that I make. There's a lot of hand sewing with it, and it's pretty heavy on the hands, on the fingers, because you're trying to sew through a lot of different layers of fabric, so you can get calluses and stuff, so just keep that in mind. I always use a strong fabric thread, so I use a upholstery thread so I can pull it quite tight, because you're not using two pieces of faux fur. It's a piece of cotton against faux fur, so you can see seams. So you want to pull your seams really tight so they blend in nicely. And I'm basically just pinning the two pieces together and just giving a little trim where I need to remove some of that faux fur. So I don't want the faux fur to cover the legs, so I need to trim off some areas of the bottom, and then I can start sewing everything up. I use polyfill for the filling, and this one doesn't really need very much, only a small bit. So once it's almost been sewn up, I can then add the polyfill to it, just a tiny bit, and that's the same sort of stuff that you find in cushions. So once everything has been sewn up and I've added the polyfill, I can start gluing these pieces together. So I'm going to be gluing around the neck area with some tacky fabric glue, and I need to do a little bit of glue work around the feet area where the wings are going to attach, because the wings need to attach to the thumb bit. I'm just going to do a quick layer of paint on these little thumb joints, I guess, before I glue these pieces together as well and finish this off. So just painting this up real quick, and I'll add some more detailing once the doll is almost finished. So I can start finishing up these little thumb pieces. So I basically just cut some sections at the base of the little thumb, and I can glue it on itself. You'll still see a small seam line, but it's not too bad. I mean, there's really nothing much you can do about it because it's such a thin fabric, you can't really hide the seam line. So I'm just using some of that tacky fabric glue to glue it all together and sort of curl it over on itself. So once that's all glued together, I'm going to leave it to dry overnight just to make sure everything's nice and dry before I start adding any of the paint details. So I'm going to just be doing some highlighting, painting on the wings to create, I guess, the illusion of bone structure. I mean, there is a structure behind it, but I just want to highlight it using some of this paint. Paintwork is a combination of a couple of different layers of thinned out, like watered down paint, because I still wanted that transparency in these, like the feet and the face. So I'm just going to be adding a little bit of red base undertone, and then I'm going to be adding some brown over top of it because it is quite a reddish skin tone. And same deal with the bone structure on the wings as well, just going over with some watered down red paint. same deal for the face area, or the bits that are going to be exposed, so just the mouth and the nose area, and also those ears. And then I can go in with that brown paint and just do a final coat of the brown over the top of it, just so it mutes it down a little bit, and basically it kind of looks more similar to the wing colour. And just doing a little bit of work around the eyes just to blend it in a little bit better, and just give it a bit more character as well, rather than it to be straight faux. And then I'll probably just go over again the snout area and just dab a little bit off to blend it in a bit better. And that's pretty much it for this one. So I haven't sent it off just yet to the Vancouver Aquarium. I'm just waiting them to give me the go ahead to send it off, but they're going to be using this in the educational program. So if you're in the Vancouver Aquarium area, definitely head over there and give it a little look when they start using it. But that's pretty much it from me today, so I will leave it there, and thank you to my patrons for supporting me. I really appreciate it. Check me out on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok, and yeah, I will catch you in the next one. Bye.